Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Humphrey and I make videos here on YouTube on personal finance and investing. Today, I wanted to share with you guys a budgeting hack that I've personally used in my own life, and I call them no spend days. And they're literally days where you spend $0. Now, that doesn't mean that you're starving yourself or you're not using any of the utilities that you pay for on a recurring schedule. All it really means is that you need to plan around a little bit better so that on that actual day, your no spend day, you're spending $0. Now, when people find out that I do this, they usually think a few things. They probably think I'm dumb. They think it's a waste of time. They think that I should spend my time focusing on making money instead of saving money. They think that I probably spend more money on the days surrounding the no spend days. Or simply put, they just don't understand the simple power of a habit when it comes to your financial situation. In today's video, I'm gonna lay out two different things. One, why you should try no spend days, and two, how to do it in a sustainable way. Personally, I've used this budgeting hack in the past to really kickstart my tracking of expenses. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I've been tracking my expenses for the past 6 years. So as for the why, there are a lot of reasons why you may want to do this, especially if you're bad at tracking or budgeting your money. First, I think it's a great way to kickstart your discipline when it comes to saving. A lot of us in the United States are impulse shoppers, so when we see things like flash sales, or maybe you're going through the checkout at the grocery store and you see candy and magazines, those are going to appeal to us a lot. Another impulse buy or routine purchase that I see a lot of people doing is going to the coffee house every day or your local Starbucks and buying a latte. By planning a no spend day, it really forces you to get creative, break the habits that you're used to doing already, and also forces you to evaluate the purpose of your spending. Second, when done correctly, you can actually save a lot of money using the no spend method. Let's say you target 5 no spend days a month. Well, 5 divided by 30 is 16.67%. That means 16.67% of the month you're actually not spending money. As long as you're able to keep the rest of your days around your no spend days reasonable, you're going to save money, and I'm going to give you a detailed example of this later on. Lastly, no spend days are a really good way to build up momentum when it comes to saving. It's a good way to kind of start that habit. It's one of the reasons why I suggest it to a lot of beginners. It's because it's a manageable way to cut out your excess spending. Many people I know don't love knowing how much they spend, so having one of these no spend days is one of the best ways to kind of dip your toes into tracking your expenses or kind of getting more comfortable and intimate with your own finances. Okay, so now that we know the reasons as to why no spend days are a good idea, let's go into how you're actually going to execute these no spend days. First, you're going to decide on the number of no spend days you'd like to have in a certain time period. For me, since I like to track my expenses on a month-to-month basis, I like to start at the beginning of the month and I target between 4 to 5 no spend days a month. That means roughly 1 no spend day a week with 1 extra thrown in there just to challenge me just a little bit more. If you're really bad with your money, maybe you can start with 3 no spend days a month. That's still low enough where it's still doable, but enough so that you still see a difference in the bottom line of your budget at the end of the month. With this step, it's really important to just spread out your no spend days. You don't want to stack all of your no spend days at the beginning of the month, for example, in the first 5 days of the month, and then the remaining 25 days you subsequently just spend way more money. That kind of defeats the purpose of this exercise. By spreading out your no spend days, you're actually building the right habit, which is to be self-disciplined and to actually look into your finances from time to time. The second step is actually to plan your no spend days based on what your schedule looks like. So I personally know that I like to spend a little bit more money on the weekends. That's usually when I have more free time and there's a social aspect that kind of comes into play there. So I personally like to plan my no spend days during the week, especially on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because I have a pre-existing hobby that I like to do from 6 p.m. and onward, so it really breaks up the day for me really easily. For me, I like to play World of Warcraft from 6 p.m. to about 10 p.m. with some people. It's called a raid, if you will. It's probably the dorkiest thing about me that you should know, but basically it actually makes my Tuesdays and Wednesdays a lot easier to plan around. Because I know that I have that hobby, I just know that I have to get to 6 p.m. that day without spending any money, and that would be considered a no spend day. Because I'm preoccupied with that activity, I know I'm probably not going to spend money. So this is one of the good hacks that you can do for planning your no spend days, is that if you have an existing hobby or you know you're going to be busy on a certain day from a certain time, those are probably good opportunities for no spend days. So for me, at the beginning of the month, I'm going to mark down 5 different days where I don't spend any money at all. And those are usually Tuesdays for me, but I'm going to make sure no matter what, on those days, I'm going to plan around it and not spend any money on those days. The third step here is that we need to make sure we have enough food. Now, this should go without saying. You don't want to run out of food or don't want to have to go out for groceries on your no spend day. What that means is that you can stock up on groceries a few days before so that when it comes to your no spend day, you can just eat whatever you have at home. I always like to be as prepared as possible, so I'm always going through the kitchen, making sure that I have everything I need, including not running out of coffee. Now, the fourth step is to actually keep your spending leading up to your no spend day and after the no spend day relatively the same. Obviously, because you have a day where you're not going to be spending any money, you will have this temptation to basically do some last minute purchases before your no spend day, like let's say the night before. You want to resist this temptation and only focus on spending that's actually necessary. The biggest difference for me when it comes to a no spend day is just to plan my meals better, make sure I'm not going out for coffee or making any impulse purchases on that day. The fifth step here is to really check in with yourself after a month or so or however long you've been doing no spend days for and make sure that your spending has not gone up as a result of your no spend days. Try to keep track of your progress and be brutally honest with yourself. Did your no spend days actually contribute to a decrease in spending? Now, they actually should based on the math, and let me show you an example why. Let's pretend that you target 5 no spend days a month. For simplicity's sake, let's say on average you spend about $50 a day. That includes gas, groceries, utilities, etc. That's about $1,500 a month in discretionary expenses that you're used to per month. Now with this budgeting hack, you're actually not going to be spending money on 5 of those days. So naturally 5 out of 30 or 16.67% of the month, you're not spending $50. So your effective savings should be roughly $250 if you can keep the rest of your spending consistent. As long as you didn't exceed $250 in additional spending on the days surrounding your no spend days, then technically you're in the green and you're saving money overall. Whatever your average spend per day is times the number of no spend days in a month, well, that's the wiggle room you have for your budget. It's more of a mental budgeting hack than anything, and it's a really good way to build that self-discipline for especially those people that spend a little bit too much money on things they may not need. To drive this point further, if you were to stick to 5 no spend days a month for the entire year, well, that's 2 months or 60 days worth of no spending. If for some reason you get through a year of 60 days of no spending and your overall spend goes up, I would be completely shocked. So that brings me to my 6th point. You got to keep your standards up. For me, once I've done something, I know that I'm finally capable of it. So if I'm able to hit 5 no spend days a month, then the next month, I know that I've done it before. So hitting 5 no spend days should be no problem. Now I'm gonna try to keep that standard up, but does that mean I'm always gonna hit 5 no spend days a month? Not necessarily. I mean, life gets in the way. Sometimes you do have to spend money on things. Sometimes emergencies come up. But overall, if I have nothing else going on, I'm gonna strive for 5 no spend days a month. So guys, this is what I personally have done to actually kickstart my own expense tracking, and let me know in the comments if you guys give this method a try. I believe it's gonna help you save a lot of money. If you got any value out of this video, make sure to drop it a like and subscribe to my videos. I drop new videos here on YouTube on personal finance every single week. If you'd like a free stock from Robinhood, make sure to use the link in my description below. You'll get a free stock whenever you deposit any amount of money, even if it's just $1. Lastly, thanks to all my Patreon supporters. I appreciate all of you guys. I will see you guys here in the next video, which will be in a couple days. Peace.